Okay, this is going to be a real quick video showing you how to take a simple web server and darken it using Ziti. And by darken, I mean make sure that it has no listening ports. Very cool stuff. Let's take a look at what that might look like. Here's a classic example of a web server with a listening port. A very classic example. Everybody's probably made these kind of web servers before. You go out to some cloud provider, in this case Amazon, you stand up your simple web server and you choose what port and you open that port in the firewall. That's so that people like me who are across the internet can access that web server. And you can see we've got a couple of endpoints. We've got a slash hello and a slash add endpoint. I don't have all that set up in my local debugging environment. So instead, we're going to just pretend that we deployed it into Amazon in this kind of a fashion, just so that you can see what a simple HTTP request would look like. And we're going to still listen on port 8090, and we're still going to have that slash hello and slash add endpoints. So this is what that code looks like. Let's clear this out. We have our server on the left. You can see it adds a couple of endpoints, hello and add. And the hello function will simply say, oh, not zetified hello. We want it to be just zetified hello, or say hello from, and then it'll tell you the host name. And then the add function will take two parameters and tell you the response. Okay, on the client, we will connect to localhost 8090, and then we'll issue a get to the hello URL and print that out to the screen down here. And then we'll issue a simple request to the add URL and do the same sort of thing. So let's go ahead and fire up that server. This compilation takes just a moment, and then after it's done compiling, it'll be listening. So let's go ahead and start the client up. That'll do the same sort of thing where it will compile. And after it's done compiling, you'll see our results. Hello from SG3. My computer's name is SG3. And then here's my add result from 1 plus 2 equals 3. Well, now let's sprinkle some Ziti onto this and see what we can do. All right, so let's just change all these things to be zetified. And there's some zetified wording. Now let's change the way that we serve HTTP. Instead of using listen and serve, we are going to use http.serve, and we'll need a listener. And in order to create that listener, I will need to create a function, and that function will need a couple of imports. You can probably tell I'm copying and pasting this code from off screen just to make the video shorter. You can pause it or come back and check it out later, and we'll put source material or the source links below. But here's the create Ziti listener function. When it's all complete, it'll simply read the first argument passed in and then execute a Ziti new context with config and then listen with ops. That'll create the listener, and then we'll use that listener back up here in the HTTP serve function to actually serve HTTP. Well, cool. That is our zetified server. You can see already zetified. Now let's go ahead and change the client side. So the first thing we want to do is we change the target. In a zetified client, we'll be using, in this case, as a service name as our dialing endpoint. So this is where we're going to send our bits. We're going to use that service. Oh, this is a good time. I've already created a Ziti overlay network, and that network would look something like this. So I have a Ziti overlay network already created. I have a simple web server, which we just started, that listens on HTTP service and provides the hello and add endpoints. And now I'm going to make a simple HTTP client and wire it all together. So let's go back to the code and keep doing the zetifying bits. Okay, so now after I've changed the target, I'm going to change the HTTP client. Instead of using the default client, I'm going to create a zetified client. And I already know I'm going to need this import, so I'll just put that here first. And now let's go ahead and create the function that will create that, that HTTP client. You'll see I'm storing a little bit of global context here, so forgive my minor cheat, but it is example code. Here's that function. You can see we're going to take in the identity file, create a new config. From that, we'll end up creating a Ziti context, and then using a dial context of this function up here, which then ends up using the Ziti context that's global that I stored off to actually dial a service. What service? Well, since every HTTP request will come in the form of host and port, this service will be HTTP service. And that should be everything we need in order to see this work. So let's go ahead and run the client now. Presuming I've done everything correctly, we should see our Zitified responses. All right, Zitified hello from SG3, Zitified A plus B equals 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. So that's great. We've gotten our Zitification complete, but we can take this one step further. Since this is simply a Zitified web server, we can take our server and actually deploy it literally anywhere. It doesn't matter. In this case, I'm going to choose Amazon because I have an Amazon server ready to go, but it could be any cloud provider. It could even be some other private endpoint. All I need is external internet access. I need that ZD overlay network. Like I said, I created this one using the NetFoundry console, but if you wanted to use the OpenZiti open source stuff, you can go to openziti.github.io and follow a quick start guide and get started there. But this web server is going to do the exact same thing. However, what's really cool is no firewall port needs to be open, and I have no listening ports on my web server at all. This thing is totally dark, totally unattackable, and can literally be deployed anywhere. So I can go ahead and stop my server and then come on over to my actual code base. And from my code base itself, I'm going to SCP everything from here to my Amazon machine. And let's see, go example. Is that what I called it? Oh, I didn't do an R. I need a -R on that. Okay, so let's SSH to CD AWS and let's make a dir called go example. And then let's SCP all that stuff into go example. Fantastic. Now let's go back to SSH to CD AWS. CD to go example, CD to server, and here's where I'm going to go run simple server. I need to provide the reflect server JSON, that's the identity file name, and then the HTTP service. That is the service I'm going to use. And fantastic, we are connected to the edge router. Now we can go back to here and run our client one more time. This time out in Amazon land is where this is going to go, but it doesn't even matter. Nobody knows where it goes because ZD is totally dark. Zitified hello from, in this case, IP 172.31.23.18. That's the private IP address of that Amazon server. And you can see we're done. So we have successfully done exactly this. We've taken a simple HTTP server, we have Zitified it, we have no listening firewall holes, we have no listening ports whatsoever, we have a Zitified client, and we have a totally dark web server experience. All right, well that's the entire show. Thanks for watching. Bye.